It's a lot of fun. Thanks so much to all of our sponsors. All right. So back to our program, inshallah. Now, this is a place where, inshallah, you will really get an opportunity to also talk to one another. I know that you have been listening and engaging independently, and we're so appreciative of that. Sister Kathy Jamil joins us to lead the next session of the leadership retreat, and we are getting towards the end. Sister Kathy will be speaking about leading with clarity. Sister Kathy knows a lot about leading with clarity. MashaAllah, she has almost 2 decades of school leadership experience in both public and private schools. She was a founding principal of an Islamic school in Buffalo, New York, Universal, and continues to remain engaged with them as a board member. She was also an administrator of a charter school and has also served, very, very importantly and dear to our hearts, a decade of service to the ISLA, maybe more, and was the former chairperson before Dr. Seema Imam became chair 3 years ago. She has now also she has her own consulting firm called Lit Consulting. And if you go to the full program that I emailed to all of those who registered by last night, I'll send it out to all the registrants again. You can click on the PDF actually and be taken to the websites of all those that you see their promos for. So you'll see Lit Consulting there too, and you can just click on it and be taken to the website, inshallah. Kathy, I don't want to take any more of your time. I will let you go ahead and get started with your presentation. I will click along as I am sharing this, your PowerPoint. Unless you want to do otherwise.
All right, Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. It is such a pleasure to see so many familiar faces, some new faces, and it's a reminder of how much I miss your company at these retreats. And inshallah, may Allah bring us back together again so we can see you again and share. I'm a little disheartened to share some of this information after such a beautiful beginning of this retreat, in the sense that I feel totally relaxed now. Thank you to Brother Wadud for that. I'm also very inspired by Brother Matthew's piece, and your reflections and resilience were phenomenal. And inshallah, we're just going to add a small piece to it so that inshallah you can walk away in terms of being a school leader and how we can help our faculty build resilience, inshallah. So I want you to think of a time when you were given an assignment, project, or task. And when I was thinking about this, is like, well, mostly these are like school leaders and principals. How often do they get assigned tasks? Well, maybe their board does. But if you could think back, or when you were a teacher, or if there are teachers, thinking about when you were given a task, a project, assignment, and the directions were not clear. It could even like that desk that you ordered and you got in the mail and it's in 1,000 pieces, and then you're trying to go through the directions and you're like, they're trying to figure things out. How did that make you feel? Uncertain, frustrated, like I could have gotten it done, frustrated, annoyed, yes, lost. So when we think about in all of those feelings we all can relate to that because we've all been in those situations before. And so when we are in a situation where we feel like that, it just makes it that much harder, overwhelmed, confused. Yeah, it just makes it that much harder to get things done, and we don't. And one of the reasons that it affects our productivity is because we lack that clarity. When we are not clear about what we need to do, it really has an impact on us. Now think about a great lesson plan, like a really like top-notch pedagogy lesson plan where the teacher had taken a state standard and broken it down into a simple language for the child. Maybe it's even like an I can statement objective, and then the student knows the objective, and then by the end of the lesson they'll be able to do blank, 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 and then there's evidence of their learning, and it's an exit ticket or some other formative assessment, so that the student knows what you're going to be expecting from them. You provided them a rubric, a really clear rubric of specific steps and things that you want to make sure are in those lessons and their evidence to show you. We know when a teacher does all of those things that they've set that student up for success. And so as school leaders, it shouldn't be any different. Like we have to make sure that when we give information or we start to work with our faculty and plan, that we are super clear about what we're doing and how to get there. And that clarity then inshallah will help them be set up for success. Now in the reverse, Ashaj, you can click the slide. In the reverse, how do you feel when you knew exactly what to do and how to do it and why? I'm going to throw in the why and why it was important. Now just think about what focused, great observation, focused, confident, strong. I'm sure you feel empowered, you feel productive and capable. So all of these feelings that you have when you know what you have to do, and then I'm going to throw in the why, because the why is really important when we think about like why we do things, and connecting that to clarity. You feel confident and sure, but this also builds efficacy. And that's the feeling like I know that I'm making a difference. Like all this hard work is going somewhere, is helping someone. And as a school leader, we need to feel that way. We need to feel that all of the hours that you're putting in and all of your focus on trying to be everything for your students and your staff and your board and the parents and all of the things that you're sandwiching between, you need to feel a sense of efficacy as well. And so when we know the why and your whole school knows the why, you start to then build what we call collective efficacy. And in collective efficacy, the belief that we are all on a team or as a unit makes a difference. So I'd recently taken a PD with at Harvard University in regards to developing the brain of a child. And though it was focused on trauma, and it was focused on mental health of infants and toddlers, it certainly was applicable for anyone. So when we talk about resilience and how we strengthen resilience, we strengthen it through very supportive relationships and focused skill building. And one of the things that I noticed in this PD is that we increase, whenever we can increase a sense of mastery for children, for our staff, for ourselves, then itself, inshallah, will increase our resilience in the work that we're doing, and increase the resilience in the difficulties and the challenges that we have in the day-to-day. So I'm going to the next slide, and I'm trying not to give too much like data stuff, because like we're just, we're really trying to be reflective and be in a very calm place, but I do like to share information that I have evidence to show that the research has been done. And many of you probably have seen John Hattie's work on visible learning, where he takes about 250 or a little over 250, we'll call it teacher moves or school moves that impact student learning. And he used 800 meta-analysis studies, over 80 million students, and over 15 years collected this information. And what he came up with is the Hattie's visible learning diagram. And so we're using the center where it has that 0.4 where the green is at the end of the green. That is reflective, that is an effect size that shows 1 year for a student. So those teacher moves, those teacher effects like test taking skills, ability-based grouping, reducing class size, those things that schools tend to do, the normal things that schools do, would help a child grow 1 year. Anything in the blue, however, increases student growth very, very strong. And if we drop all the way down to the tippy end of it at 1.6, that's 4 school years of learning. And at the very bottom, it says collective teacher efficacy. So this says to us, that only when teachers know what they're supposed to do, when they have clarity about the work, and they're confident about the work, and they get the support from you to get the work done, and they do it as a jama'ah, as a collective, because you've got this vision, and you're clear about this vision, and you drive that organization forward as such, you improve student learning by that 4 years of growth. That's super impactful, because teachers are now empowered to do great things. And in the reverse, you yourself develop your own efficacy, because you as a leader are there for the staff and you're there for your students. And seeing that your teachers are growing in that capacity and your students builds your own efficacy. So you could go to the next slide. So I'm going to give some quick tidbits in terms of how to practice this. Practice it here on the next time you need to explain anything to anyone. I want you to take a moment and picture what it is that you want in your mind. Now, this is taken from Franklin Covey's works, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, and we always create, well, he states that whenever you create something, you always create it in your mind first, and then you have this physical creation after. So oftentimes, there's so many things coming on a plate of a school leader that they've got to try to juggle this and that and the other, and people probably get to know you so well and they kind of know what you mean at some point. But for the most part, whenever you're doing something big, like you're transitioning from a live school, a brick and mortar school, to a virtual school, that is significantly different. And so we really need to kind of create this idea of this is what it's supposed to be. And once you can create something in your mind and be really clear about where you want it to be, you're more likely then to share that information and communicate that with clarity. So in a larger project, like again, transition virtually, inshallah, we won't have to deal with anything that's significant again, but that was quite a big push. I mean, some of you shared, you transitioned within days. I was in a charter school and we did the same thing. March 13, we transitioned entirely virtually. And it was very, very stressful. And we didn't even have time to really like create this, mental first creation. We had to just jump right in it. But we spent 2 days really creating this visual of what we wanted to look like within the capacity and the information that we had at the time, and then created the second piece, which was the physical actual pieces for that. And then we knew we had to connect with IT, that our teachers needed Google Classroom, PD, that our students also needed to know new types of classroom management and what that looks like virtually. So once you know, then your kids know, and your staff know, and it's clear to them as it's clear to you. So that's all I'm really going to share on clarity. However, we're going to go into breakout sessions. And in this piece, we actually are going to celebrate our wins. And one of the reasons we want to celebrate our wins is because we think about how difficult this year has been for everyone. And thinking about this global community struggle. I mean, subhanAllah, the entire planet is struggling in this capacity. In addition, you are given an amana as a school leader. And that is a tremendous weight on all of us. Because not only are we supposed to take care of ourselves and our personal lives and our families, but we also have to have our ear to the ground, so to speak, in terms of how the state of our buildings are, the state of our people that we are responsible for, the state of the families that we're responsible for as well. So even though this is not an easy task, your own resilience is extremely important. And it's going to be tested every day, as you've already experienced, but it is extremely important for the work ahead.